Welcome to Marketing to How You Should Allocate Your Marketing Dollars. This is always a very controversial subject, but let's talk about marketing budgets and how you should allocate those budgets. And by the way, your budget can change drastically depending on the niche market you're in with your brand. So for instance, if you're an equestrian destination, your niche market is fairly narrow. It's fairly easy to reach them. And so that's going to change a lot on your budget. It also depends on your primary and secondary markets. Are you dealing with a bigger city right near you, and that's your major market? Or if you're somebody in the Midwest and everybody in the Midwest wants to tap into Chicago, then that's going to take a little more horsepower because everybody wants the same audience. And then your primary and secondary activities, what's that one thing that puts you on the map, and what else do you have to offer? That changes your budget. I mean, you might be a seasonal destination where it's snowmobiling in the winter and off-road vehicles in the summer months. Well, that makes a difference because now you have kind of what we call a split brand, where it changes by season, and that makes a difference in your marketing budgets. And your budget will determine what you can and can't do. A small budget probably not going to go out there and produce television ads and then run them. And so I just want to let you know that there is no one size fits all in this process when it comes to marketing and when it comes to budgets. But I can give you some good general rules to guide you no matter what your budget is. And so let's talk about some of those. First of all, if you're already a well-established destination like Las Vegas, we already know where you're located. We already know what you're about. We already know, everything about you. So you're going to be marketing just to get people to go there. And it doesn't matter whether it's Las Vegas or Orlando or Napa Valley, Nashville, country music, or just music in general, or even Branson, Missouri, a town of 10,000 people, has about 7 million visitors. Chances are most people are going to know where Branson is. They're going to know that they're all about music theater. And they have 49 of them. I mean, Wisconsin Dells, this is two towns, Lake Delton and Wisconsin Dells. The total population is 5,000 people, and they host like 4 million people a year. They're the water park capital of the world. Now, this shows you how powerful a brand can be. But in these, if you go anywhere in the Midwest and say, have you ever heard of Wisconsin Dells? They'll know it instantly. So in their case, their marketing is not telling them what you're about. It's just to get people to go there. And so for established destinations, I mean, obviously the internet's going to control things: public relations, social media, traditional advertising, then collateral materials, some trade shows, and this might be their budget. So this is for them. They're going to split this up because it's really about 100% marketing. It's not like telling people that you even exist. Collateral materials, and this is general for them. Now, most of you are probably not established destinations already. And so that's really important. So for these folks, I mean, this is where they're going to spend their money. When we talk about internet, this is how they're going to allocate those budgets. And so this is how this is going to be for them. And if you happen to be pretty well established, this might be how you would break out your budgets. But what if you're a lesser known destination? I mean, what if you're trying to attract people, yet you're a small community trying to figure out how to attract people? How should you spend your marketing dollars? And let's dig into it. This is the breakdown, the general breakdown. Remember, there's variations. That 35% of your budget should be spent directly on the internet. And you can see social media. Now let's talk about, what do you mean by internet? This would be any online advertising that you do. Search engine optimization would pull up at the front of the list. Websites and doing periodic updates like every couple of weeks. So your website's not a been there, done that. Doing an e-newsletter or email marketing. And this is permission marketing, not spamming people. If Google Images, getting your images out there. So when people Google you and they look at images, they can see what you're about. Your URLs, your website addresses and how people find you. So that would all be included in that 35%. Now, I got to tell you, there's more to the internet because we're just about to go to social media, which right here, look at this. This is almost a third of your budget is public relations and social media. Really, these two are public relations is getting people to write about you. Influencers are in public relations. Then there's social media platforms, which is getting people to talk about you, creating those conversations. So now when we talk about that, what's included? Well, this is word of mouth marketing. This is when cousin Rachel says, oh, you got to go there because it's so cool. And this is fostering that. So word of mouth, influencers. Once again, this is on the internet primarily. There are influencers, which would be travel writers or other writers in traditional publications. Facebook, social media, YouTube, Instagram. Then we get into more traditional print publications. And so once again, this is third, but you can see not all of this is outside of digital. But that tells you what's included in that. The third one would be advertising. Now, what's included in advertising? This might be Google Ads. Once again, we're using some of this budget to be online. Facebook advertising is a great way to work, particularly in travel. YouTube, where you may have sponsored content. And then you get into your print publications where you may have some public, a lot of times say, if you could write an article about us, we'll also buy an ad. That way it gives them incentive to write about you. And then it gives them the revenue of printing an ad, including an ad from you. Outdoor, which would be billboards, which is a great way to build brand recognition. And then there's broadcast, which is television, radio, some of those items. And then there's trade shows, doing those types of things, which is about reminding people that you exist. And then, of course, you might do direct mail. And by the way, if you want to do a deep dive into advertising, watch this video in the vault. This goes way more in depth about advertising itself, both digital and traditional. But working down that list, let's go down to collateral materials. Collateral materials, you're not familiar with that, are what you have printed. I believe every community should do a very best of brochure. Always promote your anchor tenants. You might do an activities guide or a visitor guide. I like the word activities guide more than a visitor guide because it tells you what there is to do there. And so these are traditional collateral materials. And then, of course, you do want digital versions that they can download or open up on your websites. So once again, that goes back to the internet. And then, of course, attractions brochures, whether it's local museums, whatever it is, they're going to create their own brochures. Maps of the area. And by the way, your attractions, they should be living by your style guide. They're going to have their own look and feel, but they may have elements of it. If they're going to use your logo, that they use your logo on the back cover per the style guide. Maps of the area, regional guides, state, provincial guides. All of these are collateral materials that you might be a part of or you might be creating. And so and by the way, this collateral materials at 10% includes distribution. So if you have to pay to put them in rack brochures or brochure racks, that's included in that. So it's not just the printing. A lot of times this can be offset by partnerships. If you do a best of guide, all your very best ofs help contribute to creating that collateral material. That helps you stretch your budget. And then we get down to trade shows and other forms, and that would include trade shows, whether they're consumer trade shows, whether they are business to business trade shows like promoting conferences and conventions. You might do a fair or a festival booth, that would be included there. Industry associations, provincial conferences or state conferences on tourism, you might have a booth there. And then promotional goods, anything you have with your logo, I call it logo gear. which would be there. Promotional goods might be t-shirts or mugs or something that has your logo on it. And then, of course, souvenirs fit in that. Now, so that gives you kind of a rough guide. But now let's break this down even further and talk about what is traditional marketing versus internet. If you go into the digital, of course, none of that is traditional, which means print, hard copies of things. But then you see public relations, social media, traditional probably be 5%. Advertising might be 5% traditional, ads in magazines. Collateral materials, that whole thing is traditional. And by the way, brochures are still very important. Don't think that they're not. Trade shows, other things, 5%, that's traditional marketing. When we get to the internet, now we're talking about that 35% digital, your website and that whole initial list. And now we're look at this, that 30% of social media, 25% is going to be digital. It's going to be internet-based. That's influencers and all of those types of ways to reach people. Advertising, if even 15% out of 20%, 15% of that's going to be digital. So when you see that, collateral materials, of course, are traditional, trade shows are traditional, but this is how your budget should break down. I mean, look at that, 75-25. That is how the world has changed so much over the years. If you had a $10,000 annual budget, which is less than $1,000 a month, you'd spend about $2,500 in traditional. You might beef that up by having partners, in your best of brochure where they're actually helping carry the weight, or an activities guide where you're selling advertising in that can boost that. But this is how you should break down your advertising. And it's so important to remember that 94% of every household in North America has immediate access to the internet, 94%. And out of that group, number one use of the internet is research, and travel is in the top 10. So when they're researching places to go, things to do, there it is. And then number 2 and number 3 is shopping, then entertainment. These are the top 3 uses of the internet, and why 75% of your budget will be geared that way. And out of those 94% of people that have immediate access, 96% are going to use the internet to decide where we're going to travel to, where we're going to live, where we're going to work, where we're going to even establish a business. So if you had a $50,000 a year budget, this might be roughly how it is broken down. There's traditional and there is digital. So you can see how it's broken down. Now, remember, this is not a specific, every situation is a little bit different. I meant here just to give you some guidelines to work from. But I will tell you that the internet is where you will make 90% of your sales. Facebook, Instagram, a YouTube channel, influencers, whether they're influencers in the RV industry or influencers in tour guides or river rafting, you name it. So to win, you must spend your money in the right way. And when it comes to that 75% digital or even all your marketing, let me give you the priority list, not budgets. Number 1 be search engine optimization, not by the name of your community, but by activity. When you type in the name of your city, you're the only ones doing it. Everybody else is looking for mountain biking or kayaking or snowmobiling. They're looking for a particular activity in a general location. So SEO should be number 1 by activity. Public relations, that's getting people to talk about you. That's influencers, that's articles written about you. Social media would be number 3. And in social media, I would absolutely make YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Facebook is how you get your locals to invite their friends and family. Facebook is how we talk to each other. Instagram is how we tell the world. And then YouTube is how we can share the experience to close the sale. Influencer marketing, which is part of public relations. If you're going to do traditional, then here's where influencers are. Sometimes you have to pay them or at least cover their costs so they'll write about you. Online search advertising. So when they search for mountain biking, you might have an ad that pops up that says, don't forget us. And you can do that by where they're located. Website content updates, these are in order of importance. In permission marketing, which could be email, traditionally is email, but it's they've signed up to get things from you. Then traditional advertising. A lot of times if you do traditional advertising, I know like Midwest Living magazines and a lot of Meredith publications, if you do traditional advertising, they're also going to give you online advertising with their digital versions. So sometimes these are going to cross each other. Then your collateral materials, which are still important, and then trade shows, in-person marketing. So this is your priority list. And once again, you can see where your money is being spent. I mean, look at this. This pretty much tells you where you're going to be headed. And so this is so important. So if we're taking this and not into specifics, you're going to see this budget here, which is not quite fit the other one. But just to give you, I said 75% is digital, but it includes some of these. But the reason I put this here is just to show you how this works. Advertising is to drive people to your website or to a social media channel. Advertising typically is not going to close the sale all by itself because you only have a couple of seconds, which you're going to see coming up. Drive people to your website, including social media. This is going to drive people to your website, and then and then that's going to, once they get to your website, you're going to educate them about who you are, what you have to offer, and what makes you unique. You're going to inform them about seasons, times of years, specifics, and you're going to tease them and you're going to sell them. The website is where you close the sale. You got to do all of these things there. And your trade shows is also about educating people. Here's who we are. Here's where we're located. Here's why you should come visit us. It's to educate and inform. And then printed materials, once people arrive at a destination, they will use local brochures 81% of the time. It even trumps the internet. But it's not before we even leave our house. It's once we arrive. Give me information. We're in our hotel room. We're in our RV park. We are in a restaurant. And now we can look at that without always having our phones in front of us. We can look at traditional brochures. And with your marketing, tell them once, tell them twice, tell them again and again and again. Repetition gets results. So rather than we're going to put it one little ad in 10 publications, I'd rather see you put one ad in one publication 10 times, because repetition gets results. That's what creates top of mind awareness. So always tell them once, tell them what you told them, then tell them again. And they say 5 to 7 times it takes for people to remember you and sticks in their minds. This is why I still remember. I mean, I don't know how long it's been to all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. They did that ad so many times, like back in the 90s or 80s. I don't even know when it was, that it actually stuck. And here, all these years later, I still have it memorized. That's because they hit us over and over and over. And if you have a small budget and you're catering to equestrians, go into equestrian publications and hit them once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Keep going. And so this is the age of specialty marketing. Go for the niche markets and then tell them 10 times, whether it's biking. All these publications, they're looking for places to send their readers. And if this is your brand, go in these. They'll write articles about you. You can do advertising. You might pick the one that caters to your area best, but look at all these opportunities here, advertising opportunities here. And so, I mean, these are just some places you can go, to get your message out. So pick 1 or 2 or 2 or 3, but at least it's in your niche. It's going to be far more affordable. And they're looking to send you your way, which means you might get articles written about you. And they'll also do digital versions. I mean, if you're a photography destination, there's so many opportunities with these. I mean, look at that. They just keep coming. Heck, you could be a quilting destination, and so these are all the niche opportunities you can go in. And that is how you create top of mind awareness. And with that, next in the marketing series is words and phrases to avoid in your headlines.